warahmatullah. Myself Murtaza Ahmed Beg. Welcome to my YouTube channel Beta Biology. Today in this lecture we will be discussing about the mechanism of breathing, which is a little but very important topic. So let us start the mechanism of breathing. जो breathing process होती है, it involves two steps, that is inspiration, process of inspiration and expiration. Inspiration is the process during which atmospheric air is drawn into the lungs, and expiration is the process during which the alveolar air is moved out of the lungs. These movements, जो air का movement होता है from atmosphere into our lungs, and जो alveolar air है उसका movement है back into the atmosphere. These movements are only possible. These movements are possible because of the pressure gradients that are generated in our body. For example, let us take a simple example of a balloon filled with air. For example, this is a balloon, and inside the balloon is air. This air exerts a pressure of, for example, 10 atmosphere, and outside the balloon is atmosphere, and that atmosphere has a 1 atmospheric pressure. As a result, जो आप यहाँ देख सकते हैं, there is a pressure gradient between this atmospheric air and inside the balloon. Pressure gradient of 9 atmosphere. This pressure gradient, अगर हम इस वैल्यू को अब ओपन रखेंगे, यहाँ क्या होगा, जो this pressure gradient will allow the air to move spontaneously, automatically from inside of this balloon to the atmospheric air, because this is only possible because of this pressure gradient. Similar is the case in our lungs. Let us see. In case of inspiration में क्या होता है? This is our lung, for example. For example, this is one alveoli. Inspiration में क्या होता है? जो atmospheric air होता है, that is drawn into the lungs. And expiration में क्या होता है, जो alveolar air होता है, that is brought out of the lungs because of the pressure gradients. Because these pressure gradients are this movement of air from atmosphere into these lungs and from alveoli out to the atmosphere is possible because of the pressure gradients. In case of inspiration, जो pressure होता है, the pressure inside the lungs is called intrapulmonary pressure. Intrapulmonary pressure. In case of inspiration, this intrapulmonary pressure is less than the atmospheric pressure. For example, in case of inspiration, जो intrapulmonary pressure होता है, that is slightly less than the atmospheric pressure. As a result, there is a pressure gradient between the lungs and the atmosphere. This pressure gradient allows, since here pressure is low, this pressure gradient allows the air to go from the atmosphere into the lungs, and hence inspiration occurs. And in case of expiration में क्या होता है? In case of expiration में क्या होता है, जो इंट्रापल्मोनरी प्रेशर होता है, इंट्रापल्मोनरी प्रेशर is greater than the atmospheric pressure. मतलब in case of expiration, similar pressure gradient operates in the opposite direction. मतलब here in case of expiration, the intrapulmonary pressure is more. This pressure gradient will allow the air to move from alveoli to the outside of the atmosphere, and this happens in case of expiration. Now we will be discussing how these pressure gradients are created in our body. How pressure gradients are created, and those pressure gradients are then responsible for the movement of air in case of inspiration and the movement of air in case of expiration. सबसे पहले हम बात करेंगे जो हमारी थोरेसिक कैविटी वॉल्यूम होता है, दैट इज एन एयर टाइट चेंबर. Note here, note one point, important point. Any volume change that occurs in thoracic cavity will be reflected inside the lungs. मतलब अगर किसी वजह से जो थोरेसिक कैविटी का वॉल्यूम जो है दैट इज इंक्रीज्ड, so that indirectly means that जो lungs का वॉल्यूम lungs का lung volume is increased, because we know that जो pleura होता है that is in close proximity with the inner wall of the thoracic cavity, and जो ही thoracic cavity में कोई volume change आएगी, that similar volume change will occur inside the lungs. For example, if by some reasons thoracic volume is decreased, similar decrease in the lung volume happens because of the close proximity, because of the close association of the lung pleura with that of the thoracic inner wall of the thoracic cavity. Let us now see what happens in inspiration. For example, this is our lungs. This is one alveoli. This is your diaphragm, and these are the ribs, and these are the special set of muscles, external and internal intercostal muscles. In case of inspiration क्या होता है, सबसे पहले diaphragm is contracted. Diaphragm contract होता है. जो ही diaphragm contract होगा, the diaphragm will be pulled down. As a result, जो diaphragm ये अपने साथ lungs को भी नीचे खींचेगा. As a result, जो thoracic volume जो है, thoracic cavity का volume जो है, thoracic volume that is increased. Similarly, दूसरा जो है external intercostal muscles are contracted. जो external intercostal muscles है that are contracted, and वो अपने साथ जो है ribs और sternum को pull करते हैं अपने साथ, and that are moved away from the lungs. As a result, जो ही ये इसको pull करता है away, this lung is also pulled. As a result, this thoracic cavity, similarly, this thoracic volume जो है, thoracic volume that is increased. Hence, we see that thoracic volume is increased by the contraction of diaphragm and the contraction of external intercostal muscles. जो ही thoracic volume increase होता है, we know that what happens in thoracic cavity, same case happens with the lungs. If thoracic volume is increased, lung volume is also increased, or intrapulmonary volume जो है that is increased. If this volume is increased, we know that pressure is inversely proportional to volume. If volume is increased, pressure decreases, and this pressure decreases up to the level that it is less than the atmospheric pressure, and this atmospheric pressure is more than the lung pressure. And here we can see that it is the formation of a pressure gradient. This pressure gradient will allow the air to move from the atmosphere into the lungs. Spontaneous, automatically, the air will move from the atmosphere into the lungs because of the pressure gradient. This is the process that happens in case of inspiration. Now let us Now what happens in case of expiration? This is here the diaphragm. In case of expiration, सबसे पहले जो diaphragm होता है that is relaxed. Diaphragm is relaxed and it is moved to its original position. Diaphragm जो relax होता है, it is moved to its original position. As a result, जो ही ये diaphragm relax हो जाएगा, it will decrease the thoracic volume. Thoracic volume will be decreased in this axis. And जो ये दूसरी बात, जो external intercostal muscles जो है, that will relax now. And by the relaxation of external intercostal muscles, जो sternum और ribs हैं, वो अपनी position में फिर आ जाएंगे. As a result, by this contraction also, the thoracic volume will decrease. Thoracic volume will be decreased. And we know that decrease in thoracic volume indirectly means the decrease in the pulmonary volume. This volume will decrease. As a result, pressure is inversely proportional to volume. If this volume decreases, pressure increases. And this pressure increases up to the level that it is more than that of the atmospheric pressure. Thus, in case of expiration, this pressure gradient is formed in the opposite direction, that this pressure gradient will now move the air from alveoli back into the atmosphere. This process is called expiration, and this happens with the pressure gradient that is in opposite in case of inspiration. And that is the end of the mechanism of breathing. Thanks.